Hey, this is Simon. We have a lot of fun with our spoiler section and we want more of you to have access. So we've added the spoiler perk to the Landed Knight tier. Follow the link to buy me a coffee in the show notes and sign up to hear the future. Thanks. Hello, welcome to the Ghosts of Harrenhal. My name's Simon.
And I'm Mackelly.
Thank you for joining us for episode 313 of our chapter-by-chapter book review of A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. Today we're discussing chapter 41 of A Dance with Dragons, which is the Turncloak.
And as always, we're going to chat about the chapter and try not to spoil any future plot points for you, unless of course you have a Buy Me a Coffee Sustainer tier that includes spoilers. Well, then we are going to spoil things for you. Regardless, hopefully we'll provide you some entertainment along the way.
We'll summarise what happened, discuss our thoughts on it, provide some useful background, compare it to the television show, indulge in a little pedantry, and cover some relevant news and listener correspondence. Be sure to check out the show notes. They'll provide some additional information about the characters and geography of this chapter. How are you, Mackelly?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing okay. We got some good news yesterday.
Well, I am in the mood for good news. Hit me.
Ethan is flying in on Friday, and he'll be here till Sunday evening. So that's an unexpected surprise. So, yes.
You're so nice. You're so nice. I mean, obviously I see that is good news. You know, your son coming to visit is good news. I get it.
Yes, you know,
I
haven't seen him since the first week of August, like August 2nd or something. So
okay, yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while. So, it's one of the longer stretches that we've gone without seeing him. He's actually, he's working on his MBA, and so he's been spending a lot of time flying to and from New York City, and he's flying to New York City on a company's dime who is interviewing him. But then he's flying also on their dime home to Raleigh to spend the weekend, and then we're on our dime, we're flying him back to Pittsburgh. So,
That's kind of nice of that company to not mind to do at least 2/3 of that trip.
Right, yeah. So, very exciting.
If they're based in New York City, they've got money to burn, so yeah, that's the least they could do.
Well, so I was going to ask you, have you watched or know anything about the Charlie Sheen documentary that's on Netflix?
I only know what a couple of my soccer team were talking about after a soccer match. We went for a pint after a soccer match, and two of the team were talking about it and saying that it was startling and eye-opening and gobsmacking.
So we ran out of a show. We finished Alien Earth, whatever, Monday night, I guess it was, if today's Wednesday. And so yesterday...
how did you like that?
I liked it. I didn't love it, but I liked it.
See, I liked it a lot. It's really stuck with me.
Yeah?
I enjoyed that.
I liked a lot of the
take
characters. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed it more than Stacey did. I don't know if she'll be... I thought it was just going to be like a limited run series. Not to spoil anything, but it leaves you thinking there's going to be more.
They don't all die at the
end. Right. So I don't know that she'll go on to season 2 like I will. So it might be a thing I do on my own.
That's interesting because when I watched it, I watched it without Carson because I was like, there's no way on Alien Earth she's going to want to watch this. But then as I started to watch it and I started to tell her about it, I could tell she was kind of a little bit interested, the sort of the Peter Pan aspect of it.
Right. Yes. Well, Stacey loves Halloween and loves scary movies and shows and such around that time of year. So I talked her into watching it by saying, Alien is a horror franchise at its most base root, so maybe you will enjoy it. And probably the sci-fi part didn't stick with her as well as me.
But the sheep with the big eye is one of the scariest characters ever created.
Really is.
It's fantastic.
It never says a thing. It just stares.
It just stands there staring at you.
Yeah, in a terrifying manner.
But anyway, on to more scary things. Charlie
Sheen. So we finished Alien Earth on Monday, and yesterday we were poking around looking for something else to watch. And she said, let's watch the Charlie Sheen documentary. I've heard it's all the things you just said that it was. And that's not normally, celebrity documentaries and things of that nature are not normally my thing, but I didn't have any better options. So I was like, okay, why not? I could not take my eyes off of the screen. Usually when we're watching a show, every night I play solitaire while we're watching a show. I sat on the floor. My games were terrible. I was probably missing all kinds of moves because I could not stop watching. I didn't want to miss 1 second. It was like in every possible decision in his life, he took the bad choice and came away with no consequences from it. At least through part 1. I know there's going to be some consequences happening in part 2, but through part 1, it was like everything that he could do to mess up his life, he did, and just kept getting more chances.
Yeah.
It was...
Well, I haven't watched it, but now I'm intrigued. You're the second group to have talked to me about it, and the previous group was just like flabbergasted by it. So
maybe
I'm a little bit tempted now.
It's not my thing, just like you said, it's not yours. So maybe you will feel like I will. Whatever.
I am. The other show I'm kind of intrigued by, I don't know what it's called, like All's Fair maybe. It's a show with Glenn Close and
I don't know
Naomi Watts and Sarah Paulson. So it's like a high quality cast.
Yeah.
But also Kim Kardashian.
Oh.
And
it's pure. It's not
a drama.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah. The Guardian gave it 0 stars, and then the next day, The Guardian did a list of all the things it's ever given 0 stars to. And it's only the 15th time in the history of Guardian's sort of cultural reporting that they've ever given 0 stars to anything. So
is that bad?
I'm almost morbidly excited to watch that,
Wow. I still don't remember what you said it was called, but I'm not sure you know what it was called.
No,
so
I'm not sure I know what it's called anyway, but I'm pretty sure you could find it off that description.
Right.
But yeah,
yes.
It said it was absolutely diabolical. And just like terrible across the board, terrible.
That does have almost a little bit of appeal, like a train wreck or something,
The thing is, I so bad it's interesting. It's a fine line for me. I went to see a Mandy Moore movie before Lucas was born, so more than 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Called A Walk to Remember.
I remember that was a movie, but I don't believe I've ever seen it. If so, I don't remember.
Carson and I went to see it to snort derision at it. But it was just terrible. It was just like, why are we doing this? It's appalling. It's so bad. So I got nothing out of that.
Okay, so yeah, you couldn't even laugh at it.
Yeah, as I've mentioned before, still for me, the high watermark of terrible, terrible movies is Swept Away with Madonna.
Oh, again, one that I remember existed. I've never seen it, though.
That one I do recommend because it's so flipping bad. I mean, it is that people funded that and looked at it and went, yeah, that's what we wanted, and sent it out to the movie theaters. It's astonishingly terrible.
Well, one of the movies my sister used to always rent when we would go to the video store, as we did back in my youth.
I remember those days.
And we would all get to pick out a movie because they were like not new features. I mean, we're not Rockefellers here. Not the new releases. We get to pick out some old something that's been on the shelves for several years. We'd all get to pick one out, and she would always pick out Who's That Girl. Not always. Often pick out Who's That Girl that also starred Madonna back in the mid to late-ish, maybe 80s.
I don't even remember that one.
Yeah, I know it well. I don't know if I should say unfortunately or not. I kind of have a soft spot for it because it's such a part of my childhood.
Yeah. Well, enough of this frivolity. Let's get down to business. How did we leave Theon? Because of all the Turncloaks in the book, the Turncloak of this chapter is Theon Greyjoy.
Uh-huh.
Well, last we saw of Theon, he was the Prince of Winterfell, giving away Jane Poole to be married to Ramsay Bolton. He was being spooked when the Winterfell gods would seem to call his name. He was learning rock solid, although hardly novel ideas about the maesters from Barbrey Dustin. And he was a participant, however unwilling, in Jane's marital bed rape. Mackelly, why don't we give the summary of this one and why the turning of his cloak matters again?
Okay. So snow is falling heavily, and Roose Bolton is claiming the old gods are rejecting Stannis. The men roar their approval. Winterfell has stores, fires, and walls. They're doing better than Stannis' men. Theon doesn't cheer, and neither do the Freys. They are dumbfounded by the weather. Theon cues for porridge with the hoi polloi. His role as Prince of Winterfell is very much over. The previous night, unable to sleep, he thought of escape. Nobody can leave without Bolton permission, and where would Theon go anyway? Pike was lost to him, and Winterfell was the nearest thing he had to a home. Ramsay arrives and demands music. Abel obliges. No Arya/Jane. She's not been seen outside of her chamber since her wedding night.
We'll be right back.
Hello, friends. Are you ready to make some unforgettable memories? Well, if so, consider the Marriott Bonvoy program. Discover the perfect destination for your summer getaway and unlock exclusive deals on luxurious accommodations. With our affiliate partnership, you'll enjoy unbeatable savings and a seamless booking experience. Don't let summer slip away. Visit Marriott Bonvoy today and make this vacation season one for the books. Use our Ghosts of Harrenhal affiliate page to check it all out and buy Bonvoy points or give some as a gift. The link to our page is in the show notes.
Sour Alyn has been saying that she is chained naked in there, but Theon knows that that is only talk. Theon sees the new bride as she bathes, as he is the nearest thing she has to a handmaid, and Ramsay demands she bathe daily. He, Theon, and the serving women who carry the water cannot fail to see her bruises. Jane's tears don't move Theon. She should not look to him for rescue. She provides Reek with some cover, but Theon knows that Ramsay will tire of his bride, and then he will once again be the centre of his master's thoughts.
Theon finds a quiet corner to eat his gruel. He's shunned by all. However, he's joined by a woman who refers to him as Theon Greyjoy. It's one of Abel's women. He tells her to go away. She wants information so Abel can write a song about how Theon captured Winterfell. It would make him remembered. He thinks as a Turncloak, but she thinks as Theon the Clever. Winterfell is impervious, but somehow he managed it. He thinks of ropes, grapnels, darkness, and surprise, but doesn't share. Her name is Rowan, and she is kind to Theon.
So Reek wrenches away, sensing a Ramsay ploy. He goes outside. The snow is thick and a snowball fight is underway. Squires are building snowmen on the battlements. A guard talks to Theon before realising who he is. When realising, he turns his head and spits. Ramsay had burned the stables, but Roose has built a new one so that the lords' and knights' horses are sheltered. The rest are gathered outside under blankets. Theon visits the ruined parts of Winterfell, Lewin's Tower, Micken's Forge. He sees Rickard Risewell smooching with one of Abel's women.
He wanders away and finds himself in an isolated section of the castle's inner wall. Nobody has given him freedom of the castle, but then nobody has said otherwise, so he goes where he wants. As he inspects the silent white world beyond the castle, his mind goes to Stannis, freezing his behind off out in the elements. Theon wonders if he'd be foolish enough to storm the castle. Possibly Stannis would lay siege. The strategy has merit. Despite Winterfell's ample stores, there are just as many mouths to feed. But then Stannis' men would be just as hungry and without the protection of the castle. They wouldn't be in a proper state for a fight.
Theon ends up in the Godswood, in front of the Heart Tree. He's not sure why. These are not his gods, just as this castle is not his home. Regardless, he drops to his knees next to the pool. He begins to plead, but is unsure what to plead for. Strength, courage, mercy? He hears faint sobbing and decides that Jane is the source. The sound is too painful, so he returns to the Great Hall, where he's greeted warmly by Ramsay's dogs. Scouts arrive reporting that Stannis' progress has slowed and all but halted.
Lady Barbrey Dustin wants to see the Stark crypts. Her men have been unable to find the entrance. Theon takes her and her men outside through the broken castle. On descent into the crypts, Lady Barbrey says little Arya's tears are more dangerous than all of Stannis' force. The Freys might not care, but every northern ear who hears the cries does. The North fear the Boltons, but they love the Starks.
Theon points out that it appears Lady Barbrey does not feel the same about the Starks. She agrees. Before she can elaborate, they reach the top level of the crypts. Barbrey wants to know where Ned Stark's tomb is, and Theon leads the way. Theon asks why Barbrey hates the Starks. She says that it's the same reason that Theon loves them. He protests, but she asks, why do you love the Starks?
I wanted to be one of them. And never could, she finishes. That they have in common. They halt in front of the tomb of Lord Rickard and his family. He and Brandon are missing their swords. She touches the statue of Brandon, explaining that he fostered a Barrington, but spent most of his time riding the rills. The pair fell in love, and he took her maidenhead. She suffered the pain of losing him when Lord Rickard betrothed Brandon to Catelyn Tully. He never wanted Catelyn. He told Barbrey that on their last night together.
Her father then hoped to marry her to Brandon's brother, Ned, but we know how that played out. So she married young Lord Dustin until Ned took him away from her as well, soon after their wedding when he called his banners to Robert's rebellion. After the war, he returned her lord's horse, but not his bones. He did bring his own sister's bones home. She plans to return the favour to Ned's bones. She's been scouting Mackelly since it's been reopened. If his bones make it through the swamps, she is going to feed them to her dogs. With that, she's done here. As the group emerge to the outside world, she warns him never to speak of anything she said. The Boltons have taught him very well how to hold his tongue.
That they have. Well,
yeah.
So the chapter is called The Turncloak, but there's nothing really Turncloaky that he does in this chapter. I think it's more named for his reputation in the North as Theon Turncloak.
I thought about that a little bit as well, and I did think, I wondered if it was sort of like the sort of inversion of his metaphorical Prince of Winterfell raiment back into his,
Yes, that makes some sense. Yeah, he calls himself Theon Turncloak. When Rowan says that Abel will make a song about him, he says, what, as Theon Turncloak? So,
yeah. But it's also, he is in an unusual situation because like he thinks, he's normally the center of Ramsay's world for I was going to say for better or for worse, but there's only worse.
Right? Yeah.
But momentarily, at least for a few days, Ramsay is distracted by having a new bride, and so Reek is able to wander around the castle at will. But that is bringing home to him his isolation, because nobody wants to talk to him. People who accidentally talk to him realize who they're talking to and spit.
Right.
So
yes.
He's not in a warm place. But you know what? I will say to the people of the North, he does have a lot to answer for.
Yes, sure, absolutely.
They're not just being unfair. When you're seeing things from Theon's perspective, it's kind of like, oh, poor Theon. But then you're like, well, wait a second.
They think he killed the Stark boys, for one thing.
Right. Yeah.
So much of it is perspective, because if he was sent to King's Landing, he might be hailed as a hero and put on Cersei's small council for the things that he did to the Starks and the Winterfell in general. But throughout this entire chapter, he thinks of himself, and the description is written as Theon, unless he's reminding himself as Reek. This is 2 chapters in a row where he is...
It's gone back and forth, yeah.
Yes, he's primarily thinks of himself as Theon instead of Reek. And he has the run of the castle. He sleeps where he wants. He eats when and where he wants. He even pushed away a nearly full bowl of porridge, which is quite a far cry from when he was eating a live rat in the dungeons of the Dreadfort.
Very true.
So it made me wonder if it's even possible for him to survive going back to being full-time Reek and all the things that go with that.
Yeah, and it's funny because it feels like it's the time he's being given that's allowing these thoughts to happen. He's thinking about escape because he's not constantly in fear for his life, which he is when Ramsay's got him on a short leash.
Right.
And funnily enough, actually, I'm reading a book which it's a fiction book, but it has a sort of like a there's a backdrop to historical things about Neanderthal man, and it was talking about how we sort of treat the concept of caveman as sort of like incredibly primitive, but in actual fact, our use of caves and the fact that we could use a cave for both shelter and protection, and we harnessed fire to keep it warm and also to discourage predators, allowed us to sleep for longer. Oh. And it was that act of longer sleep that started to make us different from other animals. That extra sleep gave us time to cement ideas in our heads and thoughts.
Fascinating.
And that's why we took over the world. Yeah. So, and that's what's happening to Theon here.
Yeah.
He's got time to reflect and think and dream, and so he is reverting somewhat to his normal self.
Yes, I see the comparison. I like it. Yeah. It's something he'd never even allowed himself to seep into his mind prior to this. Basically, even the Moat Cailin chapter, he was still full reek. Since then, he's been slowly but surely climbing out of reek mindset.
Yeah.
But
I'll also mention, I tried to do a better job of distinguishing between Theon and Reek in the summary. Last time I was a little bit cavalier. I called him Theon when I felt like it and Reek when I felt like it. But this time I tried to be more specific to his mindset with it.
Yeah, it's a factor. He was only Reek for the first several Theon chapters. But he's also, I mentioned his will he be able to survive if he has to go back to being full-time Reek? He thinks to himself that when that happens, and he believes it will as soon as Ramsay tires of Jane, that Ramsay is going to flay him, remove digits, remove limbs. He's going to be made to sleep with, in feces and the whole deal. And
yeah, did he put a condition on that? I read that a couple of times and it kind of stuck with me, but he didn't seem to put a condition on it, just like it was going to happen.
Yes, right. Yeah.
But I was like, what did you do wrong? I mean, I guess you don't have to do anything wrong to get that punishment from Ramsay, I guess.
Yeah, I think what he did wrong is elevate himself too much, maybe become Theon a little too much and have to be re-broken. But the specter of that hanging over your head would be enough to make a person go mad.
Yeah, or definitely at least to think about escaping. But he is right. He just has nowhere to go. It just has nowhere to go. I mean, the only possible hope would be towards Stannis' army.
Agreed. I was thinking the same thing.
If he knows Stannis, he cannot anticipate a warm welcome there.
We'll be right back.
This episode is sponsored by Audible. To get a free audiobook, or 2 if you're an Amazon Prime member, go to our exclusive URL, audibletrial.com/ghostsharrenhal. You can find the link in our show notes. Unless, Stannis does like to collect high-profile people. He thinks he's got a princess in Val. We'll see what he does with Asha, whether he lets her live or doesn't let her live. Yeah. And if he has the rightful heir to the Seastone chair at Pike, he might respect that enough to think, okay, I've got the Iron Island support.
Right. No question, Theon is a useful piece on the game. No question at all. Well, he's kind of useless, but as a theoretical piece, he is actually quite useful. But it's his treachery to the north that I worry that Stannis will not forgive.
I see.
That's a tricky one.
And you can't put it past Stannis to bargain if a bargaining situation came up that he might not be traded back to the Boltons for some situation.
Right. True enough.
That would be really bad.
Yeah. So I think one thing that's been happening throughout this book, and it sort of becomes more, probably this is the moment where it goes over a cusp, is that winter has been coming. I mean, the Starks aren't wrong. Winter is coming. And it's finally sort of beginning to take center stage. The Winterfell is dreadfully cold and inundated with snow. I mean, absolutely tons of the stuff. How bad must things be for Stannis' army if that's how bad it is in Winterfell? I mean, Winterfell is in somewhat disrepair, but it has high, thick walls. You can cower behind those a little bit.
Sure.
To be just out in the open in this would be, devastating.
At the very least, you could go into the Great Hall where the fires are burning and get some warmth
they
there.
He says it's very warm. Yeah, exactly. People come in and get warm there.
Right.
I will say, the one thing I would say about this is that the situation is going to be dire for Stannis' army. And this is where Stannis is a failure as a leader, because what you need in that situation when you're in extremis and you need to keep morale high and keep this army together, you need a leader who can inspire, not one who just commands.
Right. Yes.
You can imagine Robert in his prime convincing everyone that this march is worth it, that they're,
Yep, I was thinking of that come through same example as Robert.
But Stannis is just going to tell them, suck it up, Buttercup. And they'll do that to an extent, but there'll come a point where you just weigh up the pros and cons and you're like, we're going to die here. I'll break my word to this guy and go home,
Yeah, possibly. You're right, though.
Well, they do that for Robert too, but it would be a lot later for Robert than it would be for Stannis.
Yes.
For Stannis, it's like, the first snowflake goes down the back of my neck.
That was really cold. I'm out of here. Theon actually considers, while he goes up onto the top of the inner wall and he's kind of off by himself, and he considers how this snow will affect Stannis' plans. And obviously, the march has become much harder, and much like we're seeing here in Winterfell, there's a lot of Southern Knights in the army, just like the Freys and that have brought their destriers, or however you pronounce that, who these large war horses handle the snow poorly, so that's just making things even worse. But there's also going to be food shortages and low morale. And Theon thinks to himself, what is Stannis' options? He pushes the idea of storming the castle out of the question. That's not even possible in the situation that they're in right now. He does give some merit to the idea of a siege, because although they brought a lot of food with them, there was no food stores laid away in Winterfell. So it's just what they brought with them.
Right. Which that cannot last indefinitely. There's no way an army can bring itself enough food for the winter.
Yes. So that could work, but with the weather as it is, Stannis' army is also going to struggle to find food, and they don't have the castle to protect against the wind and the snow.
Yeah.
But one factor he doesn't think of is Arnulf Karstark's plan to betray Stannis. And Theon learned about that. And Barrington, Roose Bolton told him that Arnulf is planning on betraying Stannis when he marches on Winterfell. So that never crossed his mind, as well. Regardless, Stannis is going to be up against it when the Karstarks betray him.
Well, that is an interesting thing. I'd forgotten that. I'd forgotten that Theon knew that, and that does give him a little bit of leverage if he does wander into Stannis' army whilst escaping from Winterfell. Like, hey, I got some intel that you'd be very,
yes.
If you could provide me with a pair of gloves, I'll tell you something that's going to save your life.
He doesn't have that many fingers left. He might just want a really heavy cloak.
Yeah.
Stannis is not the only one who is not a fan of this snow. The Freys also seem to be kind of beside themselves, probably wishing, each individual Frey or Frey soldier is probably wishing it was any other Frey or Frey soldier but them here in the north.
Sure enough, yeah. And of course all the northerners are exactly like people are from in that kind of scenario. When somebody from outside experiences the weather that you're used to, you're like, this is nothing.
Right.
This is nothing.
When I was young, the snows were over my head.
Exactly. Yeah. But someone did point out that's when you were 3 foot tall.
Yes.
So Theon, as you mentioned, climbed the inner wall, and we get a little bit of information about the wall there, that it's 100 feet high, the inner wall, and the outer wall is only 80 feet high, so less high, which it makes sense, actually, because you want to be able to see out from the inner wall, so you want that inner wall to be high.
And you wouldn't want someone that's on the top of the outer wall to be able to jump down and get to the inner wall. So
true enough. Sense. But I think that gap is pretty big. He didn't say how far that gap is, but it would take Bob Beeman and Mexico City Air to get across there, I think. The outer wall, as I said, is 80 foot, but it is thicker, newer, and in better repair. And in between them, there's a moat.
Right.
So that moat feels like overkill. But then I thought about it, and I was like, that piece of ground would be very susceptible to rain and snow. It would fill up with water all the time.
True.
So you'd probably dig a moat just to accommodate that water, because it would always be in shadow. It would be miserably cold. So
that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, the rain's going to build up in there if it goes all the way around in a big circle.
Right. And then it would seep through the inner wall, undermining it and then soaking the castle as well.
Right.
But all of that made me wonder again about the wisdom of Robb leaving Winterfell so lightly defended, because the castle is humongous, and that wall is, I mean, I don't know, but I'm guessing that wall is miles around, more than a mile, maybe. Yeah, maybe 2-3 miles. Think how many people you actually need to defend that against grapnels and climbing and subterfuge and darkness and surprise, the things that Theon thought of here, which surely anyone would think about that. You look at your defenses and you do a little risk analysis. Well, you know what? An army could like smash itself against these walls and kill itself. But if we all go to bed at night and don't look out, someone could climb over them.
Yeah.
And kill us in our sleep.
Right. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. I guess it shows Robb's naivety when it comes to preparation for war. I guess it never crossed his mind that maybe an army or a force could sneak past my army and actually make it to my...
I think the other aspect to it, which I was trying to sort of give Robb some credit while I was disparaging him, is that Winterfell unusually is in the center of its realm, and so it feels like it's completely invulnerable. Nobody in the north would have done this. Robb could have safely left the doors open,
right,
and no northerner would go and invade Winterfell, but he didn't anticipate an attack coming from outside,
right.
Which is reasonable, because the only attack that could have come from outside realistically would be pirates from the west, from the east, or Krakens from the west.
Right.
And he believed that the Krakens were going to be on his side. That's why he sent Theon to hike.
It's maybe a more experienced general would know, I've got to keep my homeland safe, because without that, I'm lost. I have nowhere to return to.
Yeah. So Abel's women becoming increasingly part of the story. They're very bold. They're much bolder than they have been. Kissing Rickard Risewell. It's an interesting development. Perhaps he is a pander after all.
Maybe. Well, if Abel happens to be Mance, like we have discussed the possibility, because it fits. We know that he left the wall with 6 wildling women.
Yep.
And here is a man who can play, who's a musician, and we know that Mance was a bit of a musician himself. So if this is Mance trying to lay low under cover, they're doing a poor job at the laying low part.
Yeah, they're pretty much the center of attention whenever the scene is in the Great Hall.
Right.
He's roused from his sleep to play songs. He's playing 20 hours a day, it seems.
Yeah, maybe the plan was to hide in plain sight by being so, like, there's no way these people could betray us. They're so involved in everything.
Yeah.
Maybe, if you act too quiet and keep to yourself, that might actually draw attention. Maybe.
Yeah. Abel also pushes the envelope by changing the words to one of the songs to be a little bit risque towards Ramsay. And luckily for Abel, Ramsay laughs, and then everybody else knows they can laugh, so it's all fun and games. But boy, oh boy, I would not change the words.
Yeah, it's he took the Dornishman's wife and changed it to tasting the Northman's daughter.
Northman's daughter, exactly.
Yes, well, no, Ramsay doesn't have a daughter, but still.
No, but he's sleeping with a Northman's daughter.
Oh, yes, that's true. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
Not the Northman's daughter that they claim.
No, but Theon Poole was a Northman, so Indeed. That fits.
And so one of Abel's women, Rowan, is the one that tries to pump Theon for information about possible egress or ingress to or from Winterfell.
Yeah.
Or I should say from or to Winterfell. So I don't know if they're perhaps planning to get information to Stannis to tell him how he might achieve what Theon achieved, or if they are planning a bold rescue of Arya and Theon, Arya or Theon, or Theon. I do think, though, if Rowan tries again, she should perhaps not riff on his treachery and his crimes as a way into his heart.
Yeah, it depends.
Did not go well.
It depends on what she was at. If she was trying to get information on Jane / who she thinks is Arya, she might have been trying to build him up. Like, I've heard you did this amazing thing, pump his ego up a little bit, and Abel's going to write a song about you. It turned out that was not a good idea. Now, I agree with you. I think probably the thing she was actually looking for was somehow you got in and out of this castle.
Right.
Maybe we can use that same method.
What secret passages do you know that nobody else knows?
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
But they might turn to Theon because he's the one that gave Arya away, and they can clearly see how he's being mistreated by the Boltons. So they might think, we might have an ally here that we can use. Let's see if we can turn him to our side. But he, understandably, thinks that this is a trick of Ramsay, and he is still burned by the Kyra escape from the Dreadfort. But she sincerely was trying to escape. They were both fooled by the trick. It's not like she was setting him up.
But at the same time, you wouldn't put it past Ramsay to say, hey, you go and see if he'll escape with you, and then I'll jump off one of his fingers when he says yes.
Right. It certainly makes sense that Ramsay would be testing Reek's loyalties due to his newfound freedom.
Particularly at this time. Yes, exactly. Because he's more free.
Yes.
So again, Theon in the Godswood hears crying, but is he hearing the crying he thinks he's hearing? He puts it down to, well, the one person I know is crying around here is Jane Poole, or is he hearing something through the Godswood again?
Well, that's the question. We don't know. Last chapter, he heard his name, he thought, while he was standing near the heart tree in the Godswood. Yeah. So it very well, he rightly defaults to that is the crying that everybody is hearing throughout the castle. Yeah. And it's almost certainly that's what it is. But it could be, Bran saw, maybe if Bran was looking through the weirwood and saw him down on his knees and in such a state, maybe he...
I've got an excellent suggestion for you. Okay, so it's like a Teams meeting when you're working from home, right? Bran is on the call with Theon. Theon doesn't know this yet, but Mira finds out about Jojen paste, and she's like, and Theon's like, hey, can you go on mute?
Yeah, I was thinking that same thing. Maybe the tears of the sobbing is finding out about the Jojen paste. Yeah, that could be it.
There we go.
But it is, we saw it coming. The mistreatment of Jane Poole.
I wouldn't brag too much about our towering insight.
I know, right? Yes, no shock,
Psychopath,
no surprise.
Unpleasant to lady.
Yeah, it's too much to have expected Ramsay not to mistreat her. He is a monster, and sadly, beauty isn't taming the savage beast here. And Barbrey, when they're heading down into the crypts, Barbrey tells tells Theon that she thinks that these cries of Arya's are more dangerous to us than Stannis' entire force. Now, let's take that in chunks, because the obvious thing that sticks out is, yes, I think that is probably true. But she refers to this group as us. So she clearly aligns herself with the Boltons. And Theon thinks that she suspects that Arya is an imposter. And there is a line that she says to Theon that dressing the girl in gray and white does no good if the girl is left to sob, something along those lines.
Yeah. I noticed that line too. That's absolutely rock solid that she knows the subterfuge there.
Yes, it certainly is a pretty solid indication that she has a hunch this girl is just playing dress up as a Stark. And then I was wondering if possibly that's why she insisted that Arya ride with her and her retinue from Barrington to Winterfell, maybe to vet her, and grew suspicious. Like, this girl's not a Stark. She doesn't have that Starkness in her.
Or the opposite. Maybe she was told, hey, make sure that girl is a Stark by the time we get there.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. Give her some...
Had we previously
cues.
Speculated that she wasn't in on the plan with Roose?
Yes, we hadn't known whether she was aware of the true identity.
But we speculated that she was out of the loop on it. That it was very much a need to know basis, and she didn't need to know.
We have no evidence one way or the other. To my memory, anyway.
But she clearly knows, and she rode with her for a long time. So you're right. It's either she was part of the plan and told to groom her towards being a Stark, or she didn't know, but that long ride with this kid convinced her, wait a minute, this kid knows way too much about horses.
This kid doesn't look anything like Brandon, doesn't look anything like a Stark, and but is the seed strong? But Barbrey hates Ramsay. Remember, she refused to let him into Barrow Hall and thinks that Ramsay killed her nephew Domeric, Roose's legitimate son, his heir. So it's quite a complicated, tenuous relationship with the Boltons, and it seems to be all in the name of forsaking the Starks. That's her whole motivation, is to forsake the Starks.
Yeah, her plot for revenge is it's sort of symbolic and pointless, but it's stone cold as well. You know, it's like, I'm going to get those bones that are headed back here to the crypts of Winterfell, like hundreds of generations of Starks before, and I'm going to feed them to my dogs.
Yeah, but she mentions that Roose is not happy with the sobbing, and that's unsurprising. I would think that if Barbrey knows and can see the danger in hearing these sobs, that Roose would surely be aware of it too.
Right, that has nothing to do with subterfuge either. If you've convinced these people that that's Arya Stark, then those sobs become way more dangerous to you.
Yes.
Because now they think it's the real last living Stark who's crying.
Right, and it's odd that Roose hasn't said to Ramsay, whatever you're doing up there to make her cry, knock it off.
Exactly.
You're gonna get a revolt going on up here. And Barbrey conjectures on why the other lords are supporting the Boltons. She mentions that line, they fear the Boltons, but they love the Starks. And we pretty much came to the same conclusion that the Umbers are only, well, half of the Umbers anyway, are only supporting the Boltons because their lord, the Greatjon, is captive at the Twins since the Red Wedding. And she brings up House Hornwood, which is technically led by Ramsay. He is technically the Lord of the Hornwood. But that is, in its own right, is just insult to injury, since he murdered his first wife, in quotes, Danella Hornwood, so awfully by letting her starve to death. Surely many men in the Hornwood group would love to see him pay for that on the down low here.
Yeah. So it's also interesting that both Barbrey and Theon, I mean, Barbrey's the one who sees this. Theon's not really thinking very much about grander things than escape and avoiding eye contact with people.
Yes.
But that the two of them share the same thing. They both wanted to be Starks, but it's interesting that she says we've gone in opposite directions because of that. You love them for that, and I hate them for it.
Yeah,
because they were both denied it, but for different reasons and different outcomes to them.
Yeah, I wonder if partially we were in his head, but on some level, is that why he took Winterfell in the first place? A misplaced attempt at becoming a Stark. Now I'm the Lord of Winterfell, just like the Starks have always been the Lord of Winterfell.
Yeah.
We know he had hoped to marry Sansa and become a Stark by marriage, so maybe he thought, well, that's not going to happen. Here's another way that I can be the Lord of Winterfell in a Stark stand-in, I guess.
Yep. So down in the crypts, they noticed that several swords are missing from the statues. All have swords across their laps, and we remember from way back in Game of Thrones that the oldest ones, basically the sword was just a pile of rust, but these swords are literally missing, it seems. I mean, Brandon's and Rickard's shouldn't be a pile of rust yet. They're not that old.
Yes, and they're missing.
Yeah, they are gone. And Theon, superstitious Theon, believes that one of the reasons that the swords were put there were to keep the restless spirits of the Starks down here in the crypts. And the absence of those swords allows those to come out. And you'd imagine that if they come out, they probably have a few words for Theon.
They might. Yes, they might. And we know why those swords are missing, though. We were there when it happened. When Bran and company were in the crypts.
I missed that episode. Tell me more.
When Bran and company were hiding in the crypts during the sacking, when Ramsay and his men were sacking Winterfell, when they went to leave, they took those swords for protection. And Hodor is still, even in under the weirwood tree with the children of the forest, is still wielding the rusty sword that he took from one of these tombs here. Yeah, you mentioned that Theon thinks that the iron keeps the spirits locked in the tomb. I believe that Bran might have had that same thought when they took the swords for their protection, but they figured this is kind of a dire situation, so we don't have a choice.
Yeah.
And they were removed after the sacking because that's when the kids and Hodor left the crypts after the castle had been sacked. And now the perpetrators of the sacking are back in Winterfell. And could that open it up for the spirits of the dead Stark kings and Brandon and Rickard to curse these intruders? Possibly.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some evil will befall them, maybe?
The dead don't always stay dead in this book, I've noticed.
Well, there is that, yeah.
But perhaps Abel and his women are perhaps the tools of the ghosts.
Oh, yes, could be. But there's another reference while they're down here to something that we know what they're talking about. He thinks of Baron Stark and the Lord of Casterly Rock teaming up to fight Dagon Greyjoy when the Seven Kingdoms were ruled in all but name by a bastard sorcerer called Bloodraven. We've met him. He's also known as the Last Greenseer.
Well, yeah.
He was before in his previous career, he was the bastard half-brother to King Daeron II, and then hand of the king to his nephews, King Aerys I and King Maekar, and was sent to the Wall by Aegon V. Then he became Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. Then he disappeared north of the Wall, never to be seen again, until Bran met him here in this book. So another thing that we know what's going on there.
So just one last thing before we close this discussion. Barbrey Dustin's gripe and revenge seem a little bit petty. I mean, not totally petty. It's the bones of her husband didn't come home from Robert's Rebellion. Ned had a lot on his mind. I mean, Lyanna's death, some explaining to do to his new wife about why he's bouncing a baby on his knee when he comes back into the castle.
Yep, that'll distract you, certainly.
sack of King's Landing, best buds with the new king, all that kind of thing. There's a lot of things going on, but it's oddly unkind of him and thoughtless of him to not bring those bones back.
Yeah.
Is there a reason? Do you know of a reason?
Well, here's what we know. Really, the only images we have from that is his fever dream, which is not something you can take literal. But what we believe we know is that Ned went with 6 of his men to the Tower of Joy.
Tower of Joy.
And only he and Howland Reed returned. So that's a lot of bones to keep organized and transport across the realm, if you include Lyanna as well. So that's 5 men and Lyanna. They could have thrown them all into one big sack and been like, well, we've got 5 skulls. Just hand a skull, hand some femurs, say, this is your husband, this is your son, whatever. But, maybe that had something to do with why they buried them all in the Dornish mountains.
Yeah. I mean, I get burying them in the Dornish mountains, but just, I don't know. It's not like she was a Stark, so she doesn't necessarily have that same tradition that the Starks have. But
yeah,
I don't know. It just
would she have forgiven? Would all have been forgiven if he had brought those bones back? Is that ultimately what this straw?
And
that
it
broke
felt like an extra
back?
insult to bring the living horse back. I mean,
well,
it would be more of an extra insult to bring the dead horse back.
I brought the horse's bones. Is that good enough?
Yeah, brought your husband back. My God, he had a long skull.
That is the largest femur bone I've ever seen. but
one thing, just one question about this. Okay,
yes.
so that's all fine. We've speculated. You're right. It was probably difficult, much easier to just bury them than to slug them back like a sort of like a just married thing of like dead bodies being bounced along behind you
from their horses, tied to the back of the horses. Oh goodness!
But it's strange that the chapter ended on this, because to me this feels like a small part of the story. I mean, even if Barbrey Dustin does feed the bones to the dog, Ned's bones not making it back are not the big issue anymore. They were a big issue when Winterfell hadn't fallen.
True. Yes.
But now it's the least of our concerns.
Yes, they don't even know that any Starks are still living, really. And
right.
Winterfell has been sacked. So, yeah, Ned's bones feel like an afterthought. And I wonder what Martin's plan is for these bones. Because they've come up from time to time, and they're mysteriously missing.
I do wonder if perhaps there might be some strong symbolism with their return to Winterfell, that if they do make it back, and running the gauntlet of Lady Barbrey and her dogs, they make it back, it might be a moment where the book changes direction, sort of like
that
now
makes sense.
The Starks are...
Because everything went wrong when Ned went south to be Hand of the King. Yeah, that could be. That's a good idea. But like you said, it's just Barbrey's, her issues. I get it. Brandon being taken from her and then being passed over twice by Cat. That created vitriol. And then the whole thing with her husband's death and not bringing the bones back is just fuel to the fire to create this hatred-fueled grudge. But it has been 17 years. I mean, men die in war. Boys are married off for political reasons. Might it be time to focus on something beside destroying the Starks? It seems rather unhealthy that she's for 17 years harbored this resentment.
I agree with you, Mackelly. Get over it, Barbara.
I get her sadness. I mean, she's not married. She never remarried, to my knowledge. Yeah. So, but now the example of Maester Wallace being behind the Stark Tully wedding that she mentioned last Theon chapter, it makes sense because she was using it last chapter as an example of how the Maesters run the realm with their own agendas. And we were thinking, what a weird, random example to bring up, how Maester Wallace orchestrated a Stark Tully wedding. Who cares?
Right.
Now we see why she cares. Yeah. Yes.
All right, that's excellent. Let's move on to some spoilers. Remember, if you join us at the upper tiers of the Buy Me a Coffee Sustainer levels, you get the spoilers. And don't forget, you can try it for free for a week and see if you like it. Excellent spoilers, Mackelly, as always. Well done, sir.
Thank you.
How about some background?
All right. Well, Theon admits he wanted to be a Stark and mentions the tomb of a Theon Stark he calls his namesake. So let's talk about this other Theon. Theon Stark was a king in the north during the Andal invasion. Because of this, his reign was filled with near constant war. In a rare team-up between houses Stark and Bolton, something we're all pretending is happening here, but we know is not really the case, the northern forces met and defeated the Andal warlord Argos Sevenstar in the Battle of the Weeping Water. Theon then took the fight to the Andal's home, sailing across the Narrow Sea to the coast of Andalos, with Argos's body displayed on the prow of the ship like a figurehead. Theon burned a bunch of Andal villages, killing hundreds, and the king displayed the spiked heads of his victims along the coastline to deter future invaders. Sadly, the Andals kept coming. Theon didn't sleep on domestic threats, though. He conquered the Three Sisters and then landed a force on the Fingers, possibly kicking off the war across the water between the Starks and the Arryns. But did he stop there? Oh no. He also squashed rebels in the Rills, he rode to the aid of the Night's Watch against a wildling uprising, and he defeated an Ironborn attack along the western shores of the north. Now, with that last bit, you might be wondering why Theon would be named after this Stark king. Well, it's unlikely that he was, because there were several Ironborn kings named Theon.
Yeah, but this one was like a superhero.
Kind of,
Plus,
yeah.
He's a pretty good role model for Theon, honestly, some of the horrible things he did.
Well, there is that. Yeah, there's some connections, sure.
Comparison with the television show, so things had really diverged at this point. As I've said before, there's no Jane, there's no Abel, there's no Abel's women.
Right.
But the story, and I'm still hesitant to even talk about this because I just feel like it might bubble back up again. But basically, this storyline is co-opted into Sansa's storyline. Sansa is the one who's brought to Winterfell and forced to marry Ramsay. And because it's Sansa, her pleas to Theon to help her escape they land harder. Because he, Jane he barely knew, but Sansa he grew up as a brother and sister, so
right.
But yes, things were horrible for Sansa while she was married to Ramsay.
Yes.
And things were horrible for Theon while he was reek. So that's kept. Okay, pedantry corner. We've got two things this week, so that's interesting. One each. Mine is that Sour Alyn has been going around saying that Arya is naked and chained to the bed. Theon knows this to be untrue because he is her chambermaid and bathes her every day. She is bruised, but she is not chained or kept naked.
Right.
It's the fact that Sour Alyn is saying this and word is getting around that this is the case.
Super dangerous.
She almost doesn't need to cry at this point. If Sour Alyn's saying that and Northern Lords get to hear wind of it...
Yeah, it's dangerous. Absolutely.
It's madness. It's absolute madness. And that they're not shutting him up is crazy.
Yeah, you'd think Roose, he seems to be asleep at the wheel here. He's got Ramsay doing terrible things to Jane and making her cry. Got Sour Alyn going around embellishing. I'm sure Ramsay is doing plenty of terrible things that don't need to be embellished. And here he's talking about things that aren't even true. So, yeah, now it's a character decision, so we can't technically call it pedantry. But I agree, and I had a similar thought that he should not be saying these things out in anywhere in Winterfell.
The thing about it is, it's not just one character. Sour Alyn could be an idiot who says things like that, but it's a character decision of anybody who hears that, who is Team Bolton, not slitting Sour Alyn's throat there and then.
At least cutting his tongue out or something.
Exactly. That's too many character decisions. That's just foolishness.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It is more than just one person. It's the fact that nobody has reacted. Nobody has put a stop to this.
Right, you've got to put a stop to that. It's absolutely critical. It's her tears are more damaging than Stannis' army.
Yeah.
Well, she doesn't even need to cry if Sour Alyn's spreading that word around.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, absolutely makes perfect sense. So my piece of pedantry is not actually my pedantry. We got a correspondence from a listener named Seth who asked me to bring up this pedantry, and it had enough merit that I thought I would mention it. So his pedantry is about the door to the crypts.
Okay.
So...
Oh, I think I've figured it out. I think I've figured what it is. Go on, keep going.
So here in this chapter, once they reached the doors, it took 30 minutes of digging through snow and rubble to access the door, which was frozen shut. Seth pointed out that in the last brand chapter of A Clash of Kings, rubble had, from when the first keep was sacked, had fallen onto the door, and it took every bit of Hodor's strength to push the doors open and push through the rubble, push the rubble off. So somehow, it's understandable that the door was reclosed. There had been squatters here before Roose moved in and cleaned everything up. One of them could have shut the door, or the wind could have blown the door closed. It is a bit perplexing how the rubble was put back on top of the door.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yes.
Yeah, you've got to imagine those squatters had better things to do than rearrange the rubble.
Like a jigsaw puzzle. Looks like this one went here. This one was here.
Yeah. Bravo, Seth. That's excellent pedantry. Yes. Quite right. That door should have been much more visible. Excellent. Really good.
Thank you, Seth. That was a good one.
News and notes.
Well, once again this week, we don't have a lot of news and notes, but what we do have is very exciting. We have a new Knight of the Realm, and that is a tier that rarely becomes available because it's a locked tier, and the only way a spot gets opened is if we lose a member.
One in, one out.
Yes.
Oh, so this is only partially good news for us.
Well, so that's exactly what Zengi has done. Zengi has joined us at the Knights of the Realm level, and thank you so much, Zengi. We look forward to interacting with you, and we are very grateful of your support.
Very much so. Thank you, Zengi. We appreciate it. All right, let's conclude this one. So Theon's on an arc here for sure. I mean, there's still a lot of reek in him, but whilst he's not actively being tortured, a lot of Theon comes back into it, and it feels like he's not the same character that helped kill his countrymen at Moat Cailin.
Right. Yes. And I still, one of the very first things I mentioned when we started discussing this chapter is, can he survive going back to full-time reek? Hard enough to survive at once. Being plunged back in might be too much. And he is sure that Ramsay is going to take fingers and hands and feet after flaying them.
The one thing I'll say is, I think part of him looks forward to it, because then he can stop doing all this thinking and plotting and all the stuff that he couldn't do while he was full on reek. He can stop doing it. So there's a bit of him that's looking forward to it,
To going back to being reek, you think?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. I had not thought of him looking forward, having any feelings of looking forward to it, but I see what you're saying. You've
been institutionalized to this thing, and the freedom you've now got is not doing you any good. It's not helping you. It's creating turmoil in your mind. You're hearing voices in the godswood.
Right. Yeah.
You don't know how to treat people who are trying to be nice to you. You just assume everyone's an enemy.
Right. That alone, just all those things alone could drive him mad. So, yeah.
Right. And he's probably half mad. So that's the other reason he would probably go back to being reek. I mean, he likes those dogs. I mean, those dogs are evil beasts, and he likes them.
He called them good girls. And I thought, we watched them kill another dog in a Theon chapter just a couple Theon chapters ago. So, but poor Jane, confined to her chambers, cries heard throughout the castle. But as we and Lady Barbrey, and we often have similar thoughts with Lady Barbrey, it seems, except for about the Starks. As we've pointed out, it's a dangerous game here in the heart of the North to be doing such things.
Or you can just let Sour Alyn blow the whole alliance up with his big blabbermouth. And Abel's women are doing anything but keeping a low profile. What was Rowan up to? I'm definitely of the opinion that she wasn't just trying to ingratiate with Theon. She was looking for information about the security of Winterfell.
Yes.
I don't know to what end, but she was looking for something. Agreed.
And possibly the other thing she was looking for is where does this guy stand? Is he an Arya sympathist?
The one thing I'll say is his behavior would not convince me to bring him into the plan.
Not that time. You'd need a lot more of exposure and gauging before you make a decision like that.
But think about it from Theon's perspective here. They keep coming to you. They keep making overtures to you. And eventually they tell you, our plan is to free Arya. Do you believe them? Do you trust them?
Right. It goes back to what we were just talking about him unsure how to live his life anymore. Right. Because you always are thinking, is this another ploy? Is this a trick? Yeah, exactly.
And this blizzard, which is not like a century blizzard or a decade blizzard, it's just the regular blizzard of the north. It's not going to be good for Stannis and his efforts. I mean, the intel is that they've ground to a halt. I'm not sure how they're getting that intel. They've got
scouts.
A dragon to fly.
Yeah. They had a couple scouts.
These scouts are out in that blizzard too. If I was the scout and it started blizzarding that much, I would just go home and say, yeah, they're stuck too.
That's true. You just could make a conjecture. Oh, they're stuck. Trust me.
Pretty much stuck.
Now, where is the porridge? And get me near the closest fire.
Exactly.
But speaking of blizzard-like conditions, Barbrey can hold a grudge like nobody's business.
Yeah, there's 12-foot snowdrifts of grudge right there.
Yeah. She could use talking to someone, working through her anger and pain. I think it's time after 17 years that she needs to move on.
Does our Westerosi multinational corporation include a psychiatrist?
I think couch? It really should. There's a lot of characters who could use a couch.
So we've got the Molestown haberdashery. We've got the King's Landing PR firm.
Yep.
And now the Winterfell psychiatrist. I like it.
Yeah. I think we could
tentacles everywhere.
We could open those branches in every part of
every castle.
Yeah.
True. All right, next up, we have another uniquely titled chapter. I always like those. This one's called The King's Prize.
Oh.
Who's the prize?
And who is the king?
Who indeed is the king?
We'll find out, I guess.
There are 3 ways that you can help us. You can leave us a positive review and a 5-star rating. You can buy us a cup of Arbor Gold at buymeacoffee.com/ghostharrenhal. There you can become a sustainer at any of the various levels, as Zenge did. There's a tier to match your budget and interest. The upper tiers get you the spoilers. Ladies and gentlemen, there's been some editing here. And you can try out any of the tiers for a week for free and see if you like them. Or you can donate directly to our cause through our website, ghostsofharrenhal.buzzsprout.com.
And if you're looking for more ways to interact with us, as Seth did, you can send us a text. The link is at the top of every episode's show notes. Please just keep in mind we have no means of responding, but we do enjoy reading them. Although sometimes we might respond on the show, like we did with Seth. If you're interested in keeping up on the latest Ghosts of Harrenhal news and developments, well, you can check us out on our social media. You can follow us on Twitter at Ghost Harrenhal, or on Facebook, Instagram, Discord, and YouTube.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.